Hello everybody, welcome back. So we're going to start off the video with some rather funny news. I think it's now more obvious than ever the reasons why Harry is now suddenly desperately trying to get back in with his father's wallet. If Harry was still slagging off Dear Pa, what's that, 80 odd days ago, where he was accusing his father of stitching him up with the security case, that his father was the one that actually blocked people giving him a security review, and if anything happens to him and his grandchildren, you've got to look at who's responsible for it. And then all of a sudden Harry wanted to make up with Daddy. I think most of us could smell a rat, and the rat just happens to be another epic failure of Meghan and Harry's major deals that they bombarded the media with, didn't they? They were going to be billionaires. They were going to have £1 million speeches, book deals, you name it. They were going to be bigger than what the Obamas were, bigger than what anybody has ever seen. And in a simple case of they are lazy effing grifters, we've got another epic failure. The Netflix deal, whilst it hasn't been cancelled, they are not renewing it when it expires in September. At first, I wasn't sure if the news was accurate, but then when People magazine started reporting on it, which is Harry and Meghan's favourite, one of their favourite go-tos, then I realised, this must be true. I can't imagine that there's many people out there shocked by this, given that Harry and Meghan have been incredibly lazy at everything that they had apparently set their mind to. They do the bare minimum but expect maximum payouts. Spotify by far were more sensible and got out early, but Meghan's flirting with Ted Sarandos clearly paid off, and this has been dragged into the very end. They are practically limping over the finish line, waiting for this contract to expire. MEGFLIX, as of September, will be no more. Whilst they will keep Meghan on their books, I think that's more to do with that they are just waiting tick-tock for the divorce announcement. They will be first in with the offers for another docu-series or an expose on Harry. As many of us have said for a very long time, when those two do divorce, it will make Charles and Diana's divorce look like child's play. Now, according to one source, there is apparently no animosity between either side, and that things have just simply run their course. Can you imagine what Meghan is going to blame Netflix of doing? She will blame them for the epic failure that this is. Now, a story just when I went to hit the record button came out and said that the final nail in the coffin was because of Meghan's wine. I don't think it's just her wine or her wine-in. I think it's all to do with the products that she sold for as ever. Meghan was quick to say that Netflix were in a big partnership deal with her. Well, if they're pulling the plug on With Love Meghan, I can't imagine that they're going to be investing a lot of time and money and resources into some dried flower petals, some runny apricot spread, and some pancake mix. I just can't see it happening. So it would seem as ever will also soon be on that as ever increasing pile of Meghan Markle's failures. Now, I do intend to talk more about this in my next video because 2025 just didn't turn out to be Meghan's best year, did it? But I want to go back to what I said in my last video. I want to talk more about Harry and this gaslighting that the media are trying to do to convince the public that poor little Harry should be allowed in by his mean old family, and it's just his nasty big brother that's causing the problems. The royal family should forgive Harry, but when you think about everything that he's done, I mean, this isn't just some small family argument that unfortunately perhaps the media broke the story and it came out that the brothers have fallen out. Harry went on TV multiple times. He's done magazine interviews, TV interviews. He's done so many different attacks on his family in the last 5 years. And it's all been for a financial payout at the end of it. Why should Harry be allowed back into the royal family in any way, shape or form? Why should Prince William forgive his younger brother for everything that Harry has done? Even some royal reporters, it's like they've switched allegiance. They've done so many stories themselves on how awful Harry and Meghan are, and they're like, Prince William should forgive his brother. The king must allow Harry back into the royal fold. Harry and Meghan need to come back under the royal umbrella to stop them causing problems outside of it. They were causing problems when they were under it last time and have continued to do so ever since they found their freedom. For many people, the lies that they told on Oprah was completely unforgivable. To do that with Prince Philip in his last days on this earth, with Queen Elizabeth, who must have been absolutely devastated to lose her rock of 70 years, and yet Harry and Meghan giggled their way through that interview, much like they giggled their way through Netflix. They found so much of it so funny. So as for Prince William now being, pressured by people that he should be the bigger person, I'm sorry, I think he already is the bigger person. The fact he only broke a necklace and shoved his brother into a dog bowl, I think many people would have done a lot worse. In the short time that Harry had known Meghan, he cut off long-term, loyal friends, childhood friends. He'd had several aides quit on him, including his own private secretary, Edward Lane Fox. Meghan was ploughing through the staff, not just her own staff that were given to her, but also staff that worked for other members of the royal family. She was nasty to the Queen's chefs, the gardeners. The Queen had to get involved, plus even the Queen's personal dresser. Catherine reportedly had to get involved at one point because she was rude to a member of her staff, and my money is on the nanny Maria, but then Meghan was being pretty rude to Catherine, which made William get involved, which then of course started another bit of a ruckus. Poor Meghan was crying to Harry, but Harry couldn't see that all of these people around him all of a sudden were suddenly awful human beings, that they were terrible and everybody was just picking on his shy, sweet girlfriend. Talk about having a low IQ. William had to watch his younger brother become rude and obnoxious to his grandparents, and who also was allowing his fiancée and then his wife to treat people inside and outside the family terribly, including Catherine and the then 3-year-old Princess Charlotte. All behind the scenes, these horrific tantrums had been taking place and bullying, to the point that Prince William had to step in and split their foundation to protect staff and also protecting his own wife. The newspapers were already beginning to have a field day, but then Harry and Meghan used a royal tour where they went to southern parts of Africa, where they were meant to be highlighting amazing causes, charities, and the incredible countries. And Harry and Meghan turned it into their first pity party. Harry decided to let slip that there was in fact an issue between him and his brother, and they were on very different paths, already making out that William was the problem. And Meghan did her lip tremble and the doe eyes and the almost one tear left eye go as she told Tom Bradby, who had been a mutual friend of Harry and William's, obviously no more, that nobody asked her if she was okay. Well, clearly not enough people had been asking anybody that had been around Meghan if they were in fact okay. Clearly they were not. Even after this was stirred up, Prince William then had to watch the hurt and confusion that his elderly grandmother went through when they declared Megxit 10 minutes before they were posting their announcement on their Instagram. In fact, I believe the only reason why the royal family found out about it was because Dan Wootton had broke the story the day before. They wanted that huge dynamite explosion to go off under everybody's feet, and with 10 minutes notice, can you imagine what that did to the Queen? Prince Philip was reportedly so furious that when Harry came to the Sandringham summit, he stormed out and he didn't want to even look at his grandson. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure that Prince Philip ever looked at Harry ever again. So of course they had a year to make up their minds, where the Queen, despite Harry and Meghan's behaviour, still said they're much loved. We hope that they come back, and they changed their minds. They had all of the perks up until the very end of that year, and then they said, no, we're not coming back. So the Queen said, fine, you had a year, I'm going to take everything off you. And then that's when they went nuclear, and they did Oprah. And obviously, as I said, Prince Philip was dying. The Queen was in bits at the time. And then those two did that huge attack. And what we know now, the majority of it was lies. It's hardly surprising that Prince William was so angry that he couldn't even walk alongside his brother at his grandfather's funeral, and Peter Phillips actually had to be the buffer in between the brothers. A fight reportedly broke out, not a physical one, but a verbal one, because Harry was still kicking off and acting like he was somehow a victim at his grandfather's funeral and upsetting his father, who begged the boys to stop fighting. Details of which were then given to the media by Harry. Then, of course, Harry doubled down about his traumatic childhood with Oprah just a few months later. William was then forced to go to an unveiling of their mother's statue. Harry did look sheepish throughout, and then there was a tiny bit of me that thought, well, perhaps he's feeling a tiny bit remorseful. Oh, no, he was not. When Harry finally went to see the Queen when he was in between the Invictus Games at The Hague, after actually spending a brief amount of time with her, after everything that he put her through, including not even turning up to his grandfather's memorial once the COVID restrictions had been lifted, he then sold a story on the Queen the next day. He appeared on the Today Show talking to Hoda rather than about the Invictus Games, about his grandmother, telling the world that the Queen was not being looked after properly. She had people around her, and it was only Harry that she would listen to that could protect her after everything that he had done. It was honestly remarkable, but again, it was the world stage, and Harry was just using a microphone to try and turn the public, yet again, against his family. Harry didn't stop to think once about how his elderly and frail, grieving grandmother was dealing with it as he dished out podcasts, interviews, Meghan also doing the same. Every few months there was more attacks naturally being played out through the media. Harry and Meghan, the victims of a cold and archaic institute. Then, of course, the Queen died. Harry had refused countless times to take his children to go see her. Meghan flatly refusing to take the children or to go see the Queen, but all of a sudden, when the Queen had died, they made demands to be allowed to go to Balmoral. They delayed the plane. Prince William, Sophie, Edward, Andrew were catching a plane to try and race up to be with the Queen before she passed. She was in her final hours. They were stuck on the tarmac because Harry was arguing with his father about Meghan being able to come. Prince William got so pissed off he told the plane to leave, and then of course Harry then started leaking to the media, oh, he found out his grandmother has died when he was in the air. Well, no one else on that other plane made it in time either, Harry, because he was so busy arguing with people, causing problems. And he did throughout that entire week that the Queen had passed. There was arguments over him being allowed to wear his uniform. And then there was complaints that the Queen's cipher had been taken off his uniform, which is standard, you know, the fact that he had actually left and quit the royal family. But there were so many things that they did. There were rumours with the walkabout that Harry and Meghan had actually tried to do the walk themselves with Netflix crews in the background, and Catherine and William jumped in to stop that. There was a lot of tension there. You then had leaks going to Omid Scobie and a perfectly timed photograph, and isn't it funny that Meghan knew exactly where to look? We know that there were leaks going to Omid Scobie from Meghan and Harry's camp because he was getting these little exclusives, and then a red herring was dropped which embarrassed him because he told the world that the Queen's body would be transported via the royal train. She was not. She was transported by the Royal Air Force, but it did prove to anybody that planted that red herring that the leaks were coming from inside the house. So mere months after all of this fallout, when people thought that they could not possibly hate Harry and Meghan more for what they did to the Queen in her final months on this earth, well, then up pops Netflix. Oh, wasn't that a shit show? Then, of course, a few months after the Queen's death, Netflix. Oh, wow. Well, that blew up in their face for multiple reasons, didn't it? Because it was aired a few months after the Queen had died. And it shows that Harry and Meghan, despite knowing that they did Oprah when Philip was dying, they had no remorse. They were giggling, they were laughing, they were being disrespectful all the time, knowing that the Queen was grieving for her husband. They worked with people that trashed the Queen's Commonwealth legacy. They told even more lies. And Harry went that one step further with his brother. He attacked Prince William's marriage. He told the world that William, in so many words, hadn't married for love. He'd basically married a woman that fitted the mold. His father did, William did. In fact, Harry was the only person that married for true love. How's that working out for you, Harry? Not so good now, is it? Not only that, there was a bit in it that I remember where Harry kept implying there was a big cover-up for William. And whilst he didn't divulge any more information on it, I believe he was skirting around the awful rumoured affair that he had with Rose Hanbury, which, as we know, it was completely made up. But the person that almost kind of started the storyline had spent time with Harry and Meghan in Amsterdam at Soho House a few months before that leaked. Also, it was rumoured that Rose Hanbury was not very happy with Harry because of his behaviour at the banquet that she had sat with him through, and Meghan was upset that she, of course, couldn't go. So I think that's why they earmarked her for some future problems, knowing that she was obviously very close with William and Catherine. And then, of course, let's not forget Stephen Colbert. After Harry appeared on his show, he then does a segment not long after, again bringing up the Rose Hanbury affair. Tell me Harry and Meghan aren't behind that rumour. Seriously, there's way too many connections. In fact, a lot of the nasty rumours that have come out only came out after Meghan joined the royal family. Now, if that wasn't enough that he had dragged Catherine into it, he also then in spare also dragged the children into it, saying that he was concerned for William and Catherine's children. He was concerned about his nephews and his niece. You weren't concerned about your niece when your wife was terrorising her when she was 3 years old though, were you, Harry? In another hit, we know that Harry and Meghan worked with Omid Scobie for Finding Freedom. They had to reveal that they'd lied to the public and to the royals and to the lawyers in the court case. They gave a lot of information to Omid Scobie. We know Omid Scobie was allowed into the palace and following Meghan on some of the engagements. So it's not that far-fetched to believe that when Omid in his latest book Endgame called Catherine and the King the royal racists, stirring up all of that again, that Harry and Meghan didn't have something to do with that. Harry could have put a statement out at any point saying that that was not true. You would have thought that he might have done something like that, especially when he found out that his father and his sister-in-law both had cancer, but did pick on Omid for stories to do with Meghan not having the proper security training. Oh no, but we're just going to let our father, who has cancer, and our sister-in-law go through all of that again. He'd already said that my family aren't racist and tried to backpedal it, didn't he, to a very confused Tom Bradby, but this he's allowed to continue. As I said, families fight. Lots of people, as I said, fall out with their family. Harry is not the first man to fall out with his brother or to have a punch-up. Harry is not the first man, and he won't be the last, to give up his family, to give up his friends for the love of a woman that obviously is possibly not the nicest of people. It's a tale old as time. But the difference is with Harry and the average person. Harry used his public platform, he used his fame to go on TV, to be paid millions, to give interviews, to write a memoir, lying about his family, trashing his family, throwing all sorts of awful allegations at his family to make the public hate his family. He tried to destroy his grandmother's legacy. He will still continue to try and destroy the king's reign. And I am in no doubt that Harry will still try and cause problems for his brother, who he has called his arch nemesis, who he seems to be obsessed with getting revenge on, over something that I still don't think Harry even knows himself. But we have now come towards the end of the video, my friends, and I do not wish to end this video on something as tawdry and as horrid as those two, and let's be honest, a little bit boring. Let's end the video on a gorgeous video that was shared by Kensington Palace of a beautiful family video, a behind the scenes look at a photo shoot that was done earlier in the year with Josh Shinner, and we have had a series of photographs gradually released ever since on some very big occasions, and the most recent one, of course, being Prince George's 12th birthday. He looks very much like his father did at that age, and he looks like he's growing into a lovely, sweet young man. And the love that these three siblings have for each other is truly beautiful to watch. Harry once turned around and said that one of them will turn out like him. And I think I can say, hand on heart, there is no chance that any member of that family, the younger generation, are going to turn out anything like Harry. I'm in no doubt that these three loving and beautiful children will find their own paths in life. Yes, of course, Charlotte and Louise will be different to that of Prince George, but whatever path they choose, I am in no doubt that they will always love each other and have each other's backs. So that's it for me on this video, guys. I will be back with you very soon where we need to talk about the epic failure that is 2025 for Meghan Markle. It was more of a washout than what it was a win, that's for certain. Anyway, guys, take care for now. See you soon. Bye.